Welcome back, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Now we are ready to start our next plenary session. So I would like to invite all participants, with all due respect, we please you to kindly have a seat. And then calling to all participants who are still at the foyer area, you may please enter the ballroom. And as the moderator and speakers are ready, so please everyone move your way and kindly have a seat. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now we will continue the part 2 of the plenary session with the same title, Domain Name Landscape, Current Developments and Business Opportunities. And now I will let the stage to our moderator. Please welcome Vice President Strategic Policy Management ICANN, Ms. Mary Wong. Please give applause, ladies and gentlemen, to our distinguished moderator. Ms. Mary Wong, the stage is yours.
Hi, I wasn't expecting that. But thank you for the very kind introduction. I'm Mary from ICANN organization, the co-organizer of this fantastic event with our local host Pandi. But the spotlight now for the final session of this conference should be on our amazing speakers and panelists, whom I'd like to invite up to the stage, please, in any order that you wish. Oh, I guess we can sit under our faces. Except Harrison, who I think is joining us online. And I want to say to everyone that we have a really fantastic, distinguished group of panelists today. You see their lovely photos and their names and titles all displayed. And I'll apologize to them. Oh, hey, Harrison, how are you? I want to apologize to them in advance because their CVs are so laden with accomplishments. It will take us to the social hour if I actually read through all of their bios. So I'm going to just invite everyone to take a look through the program to see everything that this distinguished panel has accomplished in all of their careers. And I'll also ask the panelists, as you go through your remarks and presentations, if there's anything you want to bring up about your own personal experiences and accomplishments, please feel free. What we have done is, with this group, we've picked on a number of topics, understanding that this is the second of the last plenary session of the day, and with the title being Current Developments and Business Opportunities in the Domain Name Landscape. I think we all know by now, if we didn't when we came in yesterday, we know by now that ICANN plans to introduce a new round, or the next round, of new generic top-level domains in a couple of years, somewhere in the second quarter of 2026. We've had a lot of discussion and presentations about various aspects of that program. And as you also know, one big reason why it's called the next round is because there was a previous round, something like 10 or 12 years ago. And we are very fortunate to have panelists with us that lived through that round, thrived after that round, and are still with us as we look forward to the next round. So if I can ask for the slides to be up. Given that this is also the last session of the day and we are literally standing or sitting between you and the chance to win a brand new iPad, we wanted to make this informal and conversational. And apparently I get to control slides. Sometimes they let me do this stuff. And here again, our speakers, who I hope you also have a chance to meet at the social if you haven't met them before. And this is one of the two topics that we wanted to cover. Given that we are looking at business opportunities, new developments, we're very fortunate to have with us Sophia, Hiro, and Jennifer to talk to us about a number of topics that we thought might be of interest to you. First of all, about their experiences with what we call .brands, that I think Sophia's going to talk a little bit about. And then what we're going to call GeoTLDs, which is really about geographic regions, cities, territories, and the like, which Hiro will address. And Jennifer will talk to us about your experience from the last round with a community-based TLD, which I won't give away what it is. I'll let you do that. And so the idea here is to listen to the experiences and gather some lessons learned and potential things that we can look forward to as guidance as we prepare for the next round. And then after that, I'm going to go back to the three of them and ask for their thoughts on two programs that you've probably also heard about during this conference. And by the end of this year, ICANN hopes to launch both of these programs. One is the Applicant Support Program, and the other is the Registry Service Provider Evaluation Program. These are two very, very important components of the run-up to the next round for reasons that I hope will come through in our discussion, and I'm going to ask the three of them to talk about that. Then we'll have a little bit of back and forth, invite your questions, and then we'll move on to the second half, the second topics, where our other distinguished panelists will also share their experiences on some very specific themes. So without further ado, I think, Sophia, you might be up first.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sophia Feng from ZDNS. It's my pleasure today to join this panel and share some of my observations from the .brand perspective with you all. And our team and myself personally assisted some of the brand TLDs in the first round during the GTLD program. In order to have, maybe next slide, please. So in order to have a better understanding of the background and context of this topic, let's start with some brand statistics. And according to the numbers generating from the ICANN new GTLD program website, during the 2012 rounds, there were a total of 1,930 applications from 58 countries and regions around the world, from the organizations from those countries and regions around the world to apply. And among them, 606 are brand TLDs, accounting for 1/3 of the total number of applications. And regionally, there's a total of 1,587 new GTLDs would apply from the Europe and the North America, and 302 will apply from the organizations from the APAC Pacific region, of which a total of 41 will apply in China mainland, which is our company based on. So as of July of 2024, next slide, please. So as of July 2024, there were 472 brand TLDs. And 86 Fortune Global 500 company operates 165 of these brand TLDs and actively promote their products and services through those brand domain names. So industry that put most focus on applying new GTLDs are mostly from the IT, electronics, and finance, and engineering and telecommunication industries. So next slide, please. So it's been 12 years since the first round window. So people are wondering how those brands are being used. So due to the limited times, I would like to just talk about just one of the best practices for the brands that's coming from the China mainland. And fortunately, I was part of the project. And actually myself has been very impressed how this company is using the brands. So during the first round, a multinational company called Citigroup that applied for 2 TLDs, which is CITIC, is English initial, and Zhongxin, which is the Chinese IDNs. And so in 2013, so the city groups already started using group.citic as the city official websites. And later, they also use like c.citic for the cloud platform official website. So as you see that before they applying for the brand TLDs, their domain portfolios are pretty mixed. You cannot really tell very clear brand presentation for their domain portfolios. But after they applied for the TLD and being utilized actively, they have a much better online brand presentation, which is a more clear and more unified and recognizable. Next slide, please. So, so it's already been 10 years since they've been using the brand TLD, and more than 100 subsidiaries from these groups are already actively using those brand SLDs in terms of to promote their sales and marketings and promotion of the group business and media communications and etc. Especially also in the IDNs, when they use ASCII brand names, they were also they will also use Chinese IDNs together with ASCII to be able to present it to the local consumers in a much better way to be able to use the local language. Next slide, please. So at the moment in the Citigroup, they put much focus on utilizing the brand as their online branding to combating domain trademark infringement. Within the organization, they'll be recognizing the value of the brand. First of all, it's very important digital brand assets. Second, they use the brand to display in the website to show that the website or the domain is being Citigroup certified. So it's a certified identity. And third, it's become a credential for Citigroup to show that we have a very they have a very secure domain management system, able to show it to some cases to authorities when there is any domain abuse happens. They can certainly choose to showcase and prove that those abused domains are nothing to do with Citigroup. So that's the three main value they put on when they're using the brands. Next slide, please. So as our observation, of course, there are many cases like Citigroups in different regions that being used the domains, the brand actively, but there are also some of the cases that some of the brands being withdrawn. So we have, as I observed, the three types of users at the moment for the corporates to use their brands. Of course, the ideal one is to fully use it, like Citi, like Canon. Yeah, they use it very actively, replacing their previous account names. And second usage is they do mutual redirections. So basically, they use the traditional domains together with the brands to redirecting and maybe actively using some of the innovated SLDs to presenting the new programs, like Google's, like Audi's and Nike. They are using this model. And the third usage is brand protection. So I've been asking for some brands like, if we don't use the brand name, why should I register it? But I usually tell them brand protection is also usage, right? It's only her purpose to protecting your brand from other people, others similar trademark, similar brands that actually are crying exactly match of your brands, to just make sure that you are ahead of it, the brand protection strategy. So for example, like in China, like ICBC, which is the biggest bank in China, like Alibaba, and like in Samsung, they also use it for brand protection. Next slide, please. So I think for the forecast for the second round, what I'm seeing for China mainland, there's a lot of brand owners that do have interest in acquiring the new GTLDs. But because in the first round, they only knew it like half a year before it opened. Now we probably have 1.5 years or 2 years to educate the market and delivering the value and let them know, how this program works. But also, there's also challenges that we're facing at the moment. Is first of all, it's very expensive, right? So it's double the price, double the price in the first round. You know, the company will definitely thinking about the cost recovery issue. And second of all, now is, you know, a lot of people are reducing the budget because due to the economic downturn. So that we need to better deliver the value of TLD, being able to let them make sure they understand that, you know, the money they spend is worth it. And third is just really educating the market is very big challenging because it's already 12 years since its opening last time. So a lot of people don't know what is new GTLD. You know, they're mixing all kinds of words and concept together. So we need to make sure they understand what this program really about, and you know how scarce the resources is or how long this process has been, and they really need to seek up the opportunity to be able to do that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sophia, for taking us through that experience. I should have said that one of the reasons for introducing new generic top-level domains is to encourage innovation and to have consumer choice and really just to expand the space available, including for commercial activities. So it's really nice to hear of a success story, and thank you also for highlighting not just the Latin script GTLD, but also the internationalized domain name. And we have other panelists who will speak a little bit later about their experience with IDNs as well. So .brands is clearly one category of generic top-level domains that we really started seeing coming out of the experience from 12 years ago. And as Sophia was saying, I mean, it is not cheap, we know that. So even though the application and evaluation fee that's charged is on a cost recovery basis from ICANN's side, I think one of the things that I know all the brands that have been saying is, it's not just to apply and get a GTLD, is then you have to operationalize it, you have to run it, and as Sophia has shown, there's very many uses that you can put into it, but it's a pretty serious investment decision for any company. And so on that note, we might come back to that, but I'd like to move on to Hiro, who I think you're going to tell us about a slightly different journey with what we're calling the GeoTLDs.
Sure. My name is Hiro. We run .shop, .tokyo, and about 50 TLDs in our system. I'm going to talk a little bit about geographic TLDs, like the likes of .tokyo. With our experience, we started back in 2014 was when we launched .tokyo. And to those of you who are thinking about running a geographic TLD, I cannot emphasize enough on how important it is to get your TLD to be used. This is the same for any, regardless of the type of TLD, whether it's a geographic, a brand, or what do you call the standard generic domains. It needs to be used, otherwise no one will see you. And so the first thing we did was, before getting the TLD, we had a whole list of domains that we thought we could reach out to. These companies that were using the likes of Tokyo.com, something, Tokyo.jp, and so on and so forth. And the one organization that stuck out the most to us was the Tokyo Marathon, which was using Tokyo 925, or I forget the exact distance of a marathon, but that gives you the point. You don't remember these things, or I can't at least remember all these numbers. And it was a .org. And so we went up to them and said, look, it's a great TLD. If you like the marathon, you know, it's probably quite obvious what the distance is, but for those of us, or most of us who do not run these things, it's not obvious. And so we pitched the idea of having a domain, marathon.tokyo, which is intuitive, very short, and very, very difficult to actually forget. It took us about 2 years, but I went knocking on their doors, sent letters, called them, and I used about 5 different names, calling them, changing my voice and everything. But it actually worked. At the end, after about a year, they said, all right, we'll listen to what you have to say. And so 5 seconds later, I was out of my office with my team. We went to them and pitched our case, and they said, you know what, this actually makes sense. Tokyo 42195 or whatever, we thought was brilliant, but when you think about it, Tokyo Marathon, these are the only 2 things that we want people to remember. And these 2 things were in that domain, because .Tokyo was already inside the TLD, or the word Tokyo was already inside the TLD. And so it took about a year to redo their website and all the marketing, but now it's a website that about 500,000 people not only visit, but go and register to run, because it's a very highly competitive marathon. Only 1 in 10 or 15 people that apply get to run. And so automatically, without doing much, thanks to just one website, we were able to get a lot of exposure every single year thereafter. And guess what? Now we have a lot of people that see .Tokyo and say, hey, we've seen this somewhere. And it then generates into actual registration. Today we have about 200,000 registrations, which makes .Tokyo the biggest geographic TLD. I think it's about 2.5 times the size of its closest competitor, .NYC. And considering, you know, the size of the city, the economy, and the fact that Japan is not a very domain-centered place, I think .Tokyo is doing relatively well. And I cannot really emphasize this enough, again, that usage is really everything. And so without this one case, the Tokyo Marathon, I actually do not know if we would have been this successful, at least in this sort of time frame. And so from that experience, we went out and reached the other 1,000 companies on the list. Not everyone, unfortunately, listened to us, but some did. And another example that worked out well was there's a train company, a local train company in Tokyo that has a name of a bird. It's a generic word, it's a bird. And so automatically we would think, oh, it's a bird. If you speak Japanese, that's what you would think. If you live in Tokyo, you know it's a train. But if you do not live in Tokyo, you do not know that it's a train. And so what they've actually decided to do was their original website is in JP, which is run by our friends here in JPRS. But they decided to use .Tokyo to say, hey, this is a service that we provide in Tokyo for those that are not from Tokyo. So it's the website that they use for visitors. It's in English, it's in Bahasa, Korean, Chinese, you name it. They have all these different languages. The COJP and the JP are for the Japanese local customers, and they use .Tokyo for the international visitors. And so that's another case that we've seen RTLD being used, and it's a very common case now that we see. And the last case is really the entrepreneurs that like to be associated with the city of Tokyo. Some are not necessarily in the city. We've seen some interesting cases in actually in Thailand, where I was visiting in Bangkok and I saw a .Tokyo domain outside, and it was a clinic. And I was thinking, whoa, I wonder if this is a branch. And I actually went inside, and the lady thought that I wanted a plastic surgery, because it was a plastic surgery clinic. And she gave me all these sales pitch, and I was like, no, I just want to ask about the domain. And she said, well, our CEO, our doctor, chose .Tokyo because he thought that having a Tokyo name would associate themselves with Japan, which he thought would sort of upgrade their brand value, which I thought was a pretty interesting case. I'm not sure if this will apply to every single city, but my point is there are a lot of different ways and very creative ways that people use TLDs, going back to what you were saying about innovation. And so I believe we will see a lot more geographic city TLDs coming out. The most will most likely be brands next round, but I have heard a few cities, maybe even here in Indonesia. I know that there are some in Japan that are also looking into, and also in the US. And so geographic TLDs, I believe, will be an interesting, it would be an interesting round for geographic TLDs going forward, and especially with the sort of the open-mindedness of internet users nowadays that are, you know, very used to seeing a lot of different options, and I think will help geographic TLDs and other generic TLDs to come to be accepted in this world of the internet.
Thanks very much, Hiro, and thanks for sharing that success story. And clearly, you know, don't just pick a GTLD because you like the sound of it, but have a purpose, make sure it's used, and market it to a wide variety of potential users and clients. And thanks for sharing that story about the clinic too. I'm just curious now, maybe we should check after this session. They might have a .th as well, just as some of your other clients have the .jp, which also goes to show that obviously you can have different second-level registrations for multiple purposes, as Sophia was saying, depending on the use that you're going to put it to. So now I'm going to invite Jennifer to talk to us about her experience with yet another kind of generic top-level domain from the last round, which is the community-based TLD. Jennifer?
Thanks, Mary. I'm Jennifer Chung with .Asia organization, but now I'm going to speak really on behalf of .Kids Foundation. So I kind of just lifted the, I guess, lid off the mystery that the community TLD that I wanted to talk about is .Kids, and it has been a very interesting journey. I wasn't there at the very beginning of it. I actually started working on this after 2012, but in two categories it was quite interesting. So .Kids is a community-based TLD, which means that when you're looking at string contention, it has to go through community priority evaluation. There's a set of criteria that it has to fulfill, and the standards are quite high because, in a string contention set, if it prevails in CPE, that means then the string is given to that particular community organization. I'm not going to go too much into detail about this criteria. I also want to highlight that .Kids was the only recipient of the applicant support program in the 2012 round. And I think, as .Kids, we are exceedingly happy that this was, we were successful here, but it also shows a big area for improvement. And I think that having just one successful applicant support applicant is definitely not a sign of success. Coming forward into the new round, I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned there. And I believe, if I don't remember correctly, there was only three applications for applicant support in 2012. So there is definitely a big room of improvement regarding outreach, that people didn't even know this was a possibility for them to look into applying for applicant support is a big problem. Specific to .Kids, I really want to share 4 points that I think is lessons learned. Since we really were the first and only one, I think there's one thing that we noticed is the different criteria when it comes to applicant support versus community priority evaluation. And perhaps the difference was intentional, but the outcome really highlighted the kind of contradictory will of what really the ICANN community or ICANN org really wanted to do with this program. And fully outsourced evaluators don't really understand or appreciate the nuance of what community definition means. And I think there's a lot of work that was done and a lot of papers that are written about what the definition of community really means in this particular case. And of course, so the community members of that community should be involved with the evaluations. The second point is that there was some moving goalposts, some moving criteria goalposts in the last round of the evaluations, both in especially in the CPE actually. And the rules of the ASP, the Applicant Support Program, like I mentioned earlier, was different to the community priority evaluations. And having that changing goalpost really makes it very difficult for applicants, especially new applicants who really are not familiar with the ICANN process and all of this, to be able to navigate properly. The third one is, I don't want to go too much into detail about this one as well, because it is still a topic that is currently discussed at the ICANN meetings. So auctions of last resort is definitely not ideal for any applicant support program applicants, because if this is the case, when we're going there, there should be an opportunity for them to actually change their string to avoid a contention there. And then finally, if you're looking at community priority, you really need to look at what is the goal of this whole program, right? If it is just seen as a commercial or economic advantage, I think that is not enough. We really need to see what the ICANN community wants to prioritize in having such a program. And I think there's been a lot of work done, of course, in the sub-pro work. The topic 17 is applicant support. I don't remember these numbers. And also through the GNSO Council, when there was the guidance process, the GGP, commenting on this particular part of applicant support. I think that there is a lot more work, especially in APAC, that we can do here. People think about .brands, people think about .geos, but I think community applications, and if you're thinking about it in these terms, I think there's a lot more information that we can do as a community, and of course ICANN.org can put out with the support of the community for them to be able to understand the nuance and the criteria. Because if you make it so difficult, there is really no point in trying to attract this type of application going forward. I think I'll stop here.
Thank you, Jennifer. And I've already told her she's coming back for the next part where we're going to talk a little bit more about the applicant support program for the next round. But clearly, I think what we heard from you and Sophia is just the need to have that awareness and that outreach done as early as possible. And that's something we have built into the ramp up into 2026. And I think the other thing that you said was just from the lessons learned part. Jennifer mentioned sub-pro, and I just want to put a plug in here for the many, many hundreds of community members, some of whom are sitting here, some of whom are in the room, to really take to heart the experiences from the 2012 round, putting it into a new policy development process at ICANN, and coming up with all the policy principles that will now govern the next round, including, I believe, some of the concerns around perhaps the vagueness of what it means to be a community TLD, and definitely around what the new applicant support program might look like. And I think that's probably a great segue for us into the next part to talk about the applicant support program that I mentioned we're aiming to launch by the end of this year in good time before the launch of the next round proper. So I guess, Jennifer, since you brought it up and you're sitting right next to me, I'm going to start with you. Who do you think will benefit the ASP? What are your thoughts about some of the changes that we're making? And how do you think this will be helpful to next round applicants? Or anything you actually want to say, that's fine too.
I guess I will just continue on from what I was saying earlier. I think we already know quite clearly what the lessons learned are from the 2012 round. I think there's a lot of reflection that both org and also the community has done looking at it. There's been reports, there's been subsequent procedure work, there's been a lot of scrutiny on how to make this actually successful. I think the fundamental part of applicant support is, I think there's a lot of a worry about, oh, will we do this correctly? Are we doing the underserved regions? How do we prioritize it? Is there going to be a timeline? Are we going to disadvantage any such group? And I think we have to be really careful here, because when we're trying to push one group over the other, then it's really disadvantaging other applications. And I think GGP, so the GNSO guidance process to the applicant support program, I'm trying very hard not to use acronyms here. It's too easy for me to just say acronyms. I'm trying hard to say the full name. I think it's really, the fundamental part is we don't want to take away qualified applications. And I think that is really the key here. When we're looking at, not-for-profits, we're looking at intergovernmental organizations, we're looking at small or micro businesses in developing countries and economies, all of such that it's really important to look also at the quality of the applicants, because in the end, we want them to succeed. There's only so much that we can do in the point where we're looking at the applicant support program, where you eventually want the TLD to be able to run independently, serving that particular community or need, and be able to be successful. I mean, just really quickly going back to .kids, we launched a little bit under 2 years ago. Right now we have 4,700 so domains under management. To be able to keep this, numbers, or keep the policy development, or keep the actually running a quality top-level domain is quite difficult. So when we're thinking about applicant support, it's not just the application itself and getting it into root, getting it delegated. There's a lot more information, best practice sharing, and knowledge that they need to be able to succeed in running a successful TLD.
Thanks, Jennifer. And actually, if you were listening carefully, if you've actually read the Applicant Support Handbook that ICANN published some time ago, is available on our website, I believe you actually just recited all the categories of applicants who are eligible for applicant support. It's not just charities or nonprofits or non-governmental organizations. She mentioned micro-enterprises with a social purpose. So that's one of the things that was very obvious, that we needed to be clear about eligibility criteria. But the other thing that you also mentioned, it's not just about getting an applicant to the point where they can apply for a new GTLD. In the last round, a lot of the focus was on providing these applicants with financial support to enable them to apply for the GTLD and go through all the different steps and processes that Hiro and Sophia mentioned. For this coming round, there will also be non-financial assistance, so it's not just about a discount on the application fee. Thoughts, and there's a lot of community work that's going into the sort of education, training, just to build capacity into an applicant who's going to become a GTLD registry operator, as Sophia talked about. But we also have the other corresponding program, that's the RSP, I think it's the acronym, but it's the Registry Service Provider Evaluation Program, where essentially after going through an evaluation process, some service providers will essentially be pre-qualified as registry service providers. This will not just hopefully be of assistance to any GTLD applicant. It makes it easier for them to understand who can use to provide this registry services if they do get a new GTLD, but it's something that we can also leverage on for the applicant support program, for the applicants that come out of that program, so that they're not taking too many things on at the same time, but as part of that conversion into being a registry operator contracted with ICANN. So actually, I'm going to ask Hiro and Sophia if you have thoughts either about the applicant support program or the registry service provider evaluation program, because I know that you have experience, obviously, with providing those services. So I don't know. Hiro, would you like to go first?
Sure. Can I ask a few questions about this, just so I've understood correctly and don't say anything ridiculous?
You're looking at me. I'm hoping you're asking the panelists questions.
Well, the panelists as well. But so if the registry providers, the backends, if they do get pre-evaluated, do the applicants pay for the technical evaluation part, or do they not? Is that something that they won't have to pay?
You mean the applicants who are going through the evaluation program?
Right. So if we've been pre-evaluated, would the applicant that uses our backend, will they still have to pay for the application fee, or is that completely waived?
I believe there is an arrangement of sorts. I don't know the exact answer. I'm looking around to see if one of my colleagues in the room who works with the registries right now is available to answer. But if not, then I will certainly get back to you and everyone. But what I will say that is a question that has come up. I just don't know off the top of my head what the resolution of that question is.
Okay. And one other question is, if my understanding is that if you do get pre-evaluated, you won't have to redo the technical part as an applicant. So how much sort of time would you be able to save by using a pre-evaluated registry backend? Do we have like a timeline for that?
I don't believe we do, because this is a new program for us at the same time. I think a lot of the thinking was about what the benefits might be, or even how many providers, right, would want to go through the process, essentially become the pre-qualified RSPs. So as far as I'm aware, that there's no target in that respect. But the hope, obviously, is that it's going to streamline things for the applicants as well. Do you have more information on that, Sophia? You might.
Okay, I trying to just to give some information that I know about. As I asked Gavin about this question before, and I said it's the same question: how much time is that we can save? So previously, I think as we all RSP, we done RSP before. It's about 3 to 1 month, right, to actually do a technical testing for TLD before they're dedicated to the root zone. So it probably will save more than half of the time, right? It's maybe a few days, and then we'll be able to dedicate it to the root zone. But this is not official. This is not official answer. It's a conversation that was brought out previously in last ICANN meetings. And also for the question that you mentioned before, and because I was in our IT team, I believe that if you're not pre-approved RSP, you need to pay the RSP fees for technical evaluation afterwards. So I think the application fee will including the technical fee, but this is not final yet. It's still in discussion at RT. So definitely, if you, I think the equivalently, I think for the pricing, it's more or less the same, but it's just for the time saving, just to save the time for evaluating each RSP, case by or one by one. If you pre-selected it, and you can save a lot of times when you get approved.
Well, that's the hope anyway, and again, to streamline things, to make it simpler, to hopefully save time. We think it will. We just, like I said, we don't have a target specifically yet.
And you also touched one of the points that I wanted to ask, which is price. It's hard to, say good or bad without knowing the price. But do we know what sort of level we're talking about? Is it supposed to be like the price of an equivalent price of like one evaluation, or will the pre-evaluation be equivalent to like 5 application evaluations? Or
I might ask Sophia to talk about the discussions that have gone around that, because yeah.
So in IRT, at the moment is one-time fee. One-time fee. Right now the approximation is $90,000 for one RSP. So I think you don't need to pay extras, as I understand it. It's not like annual accreditation fee. So it's one-time fixed fee for being RSP evaluated and accredited.
I mean, as a registry backend, it certainly makes sense to be pre-evaluated. I don't think most registrants would choose non-pre-evaluated backends for various reasons. One, potentially, security, financial status, and obviously time. If it's going to save you a few months, that few months could be that difference whether you'll be successful or not, depending on what sort of competitors you may have. So I would only imagine most registry backends would opt in for this, and I mean, we would certainly be looking into participating. But do we also know what the price for the next application actually will be as well? Was that something that was already decided, or?
I think there's been a lot of work done on that, including with, and Sophia mentioned the IRT, which is the community-based implementation team that works with the ICANN organization, and I believe that there's been some sense of what the numbers could be, adjusting for inflation from the last round, but I don't believe that it's been finalized or made official. But obviously, that is one critical piece of information that the community needs as one considers whether or not to go for a new GTLD. But actually, that was going to be one of my questions for you, Hiro, not about whether you're going to go for a new GTLD, although if you wanted to tell us that and maybe know what it is, that'd be great too. But I think something you said that that this is something that will be of interest to current registry backend providers now, which is actually very encouraging. So I don't know if you want to expand on that, because then I also have a question for Sophia.
I mean, it's, again, if it saves time for not only us, but for our potential customers, it only makes sense that we get this done beforehand so that when they do actually apply, we would be able to save a few months of their time. So that is really the thinking. And again, you know, if it's within a reasonable price point, I think there will be ways that registry backends can make up for this. Now, we're talking, you know, millions, for instance, that obviously would not justify the cost. But based on what you've said, Sophia, I think that would be a reasonable amount that registry backends would be willing to pay, so that we do get this going ASAP.
So I think I can expecting 40 RSPs, right, at least.
I think that's the number that, in terms of estimating, around about 40 or so, and definitely not millions. Sophia, can I just pick up on that and ask you a question? For the dot brands, I'm assuming, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, that there will be interest, that if there is a list of pre-qualified RSPs, you know, for the reasons that Hiro said, that could be very attractive to potential brand applicants. Actually, I'm going to ask you the same question, Jennifer, not just about community TLDs, but generally, and also whether you think this is something that will be beneficial for the applicant support program, for example. So, Sophia, do you have some thoughts on that?
I believe it's really a big step forwards to improve the processes for new GTLD program, because for the first round, as I mentioned, it's 3 weeks for technical testing before the delegation. So, for example, ZDNS will be testing 21st times. And I think, like for donuts, you know, or for those very big, the registry have hundreds of TLDs that are being testing 100 times. So it's really wasting, time and money, you know, but because it's the same backend, so you've been testing over again. So I think it's really big improvement in these IRT recommendations and implementations that we putting this into place. And also I mentioned previously, like a lot of the brands, after they register, they need to use it. You know, usage. I totally agree with the Hiro. The use of the TLD is most important. Why we see so many brands are withdrawing their TLDs, you know, it's also a very important reason is they don't use it. They use it first for brand protections, but afterwards when they see that, okay, besides our brand protection, there's no other use, and then they will probably stop, you know, maintaining the TLDs. So we really need to work on encouraging them using it. And RSP is a really good way to really shorten the time before they actually can use the TLD. For example, in the first round, I think there are TLDs that be able to actively use it after 5 years from 2012, right? And we see the same people that making decision of acquiring the TLDs within the organization already left like twice. So like 2 rounds of leadership already changing in the organization. But how can you expect the new person be understanding this program and be able to carry out what it is the president is left to be able to use it, since it's really a long educating process. So I think the RSP program is really beneficial, not just for brands, for all the TLDs that apply to actually start using it more quickly, you know, with the same decision-making team. So I think that is really beneficial. Yeah.
Thank you. Jennifer, thoughts?
I think Sophia has pretty much enumerated all the reasons why it's a good idea, especially if you're looking at applicant support. Obviously, the financial burden is one consideration, but also the know-how burden is also another consideration. Having a list of pre-approved RSPs would be hugely beneficial for the applicant support program.
Thank you. So again, look out for the launch of the applicant support program with, different features from the last time by the end of this year, and of course the launch of the registry service provider evaluation program, by which time we hope that we can get you the cost information, Hiro, sooner rather than later. Well understood, I'll take that back. Before we move on to our other panelists, I'd like to ask if there's anyone in the room who has a comment or a question for any of our panelists. And I'm not seeing any brave souls yet. Oh, I do see one. That gentleman over there, can we pass him a microphone, please?
Thank you. I'm John from Pandi. So, comment about this discussion, I think, actually, from the registry perspective, we are expecting this about the next round of the new GTLD, but I think the discussion in ICANN is too long. Yeah, I mean, I several times when I'm attending ICANN meeting, I always talk about asking about this process, and when the information about this process, and then always information is not full information. Yeah. So like now we having a situation like Tsukahara-san asking about what is the price, what is the process, and also the criteria to go to the process. Yeah, we understand from the previous GTLD process there is some registry that having maybe applying and getting more than 10 new GTLD, something like that, as example. I think we have to also strengthening the criteria, so then we have to consider also a new alternative, comparing, let's say, the old registry who already have the string, the GTLD, but even they having difficulties also to selling it. Yeah, I think ICANN has to be fair about this. So I think, and also give the opportunity to the other one. Yeah, I mean, not only for I mean, it's some kind of only certain people who can access that information. I think the next round should be faster. 2026 is quite too long. Yeah. We already waiting this since, so it means we have already more than 10 years then. So don't make it difficult to any other person who intend to join this program, rather than considering very close information between ICANN person. Yeah. It's very not fair for others public. I think we have to consider the possibility to make everything most fairly approach, and also can open the criteria for other possibility, not only some certain, especially if we look possibility that the big player again who go to this game. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments, and I'm going to see if my fellow panelists want to chime in on this, and before we move on to talk about maybe a different kind of TLD. And certainly the hope is that by starting the awareness, the outreach program as early as we are, by having events like this and others, and in partnership with so many of our friends and colleagues in every region, right, that there is not just awareness, that there is an understanding, to your point, about what it is, about what's required, And so, for example, talking about the applicant support program, we've talked about this quite a fair bit in the last 2 days, and that should be also a place where potential applicants who may not have been thinking about this, who may not have been involved in ICANN, who probably couldn't care that 10 years ago we had a new GTLD program, start to think about the opportunities for themselves, their businesses, their communities. So what I can say is that from ICANN, and I'm going to invite the community piece, we are doing as much as we can, first to get the information out as early as possible, and secondly, to involve as many partners as we can in the region. To your other comment about it's taking too long, the policy process, was quite complex because there were many topics to be covered to make sure that when we are able to announce the launch, that there is the clarity, I think that Jennifer and others were asking for, so that you're not asking the questions after the policy is done. But even after the policy is done, there's questions about how do you implement, how do you operationalize a global program that has so many moving parts. And the pricing is a big part of that. And so I just want to thank Sophia and other community members for actually being active in that discussions, so that for the rest of the community who may not have participated, the information that does come out is clear and is timely. And that's what we're all working towards. Does anybody want to add to this? Oh, okay. Apparently I did all right with that one. We're going to talk a little bit now about internationalized domain names, because as we know, and as Sophia showed in her example, it's not just domains or GTLDs in Latin scripts. And we're very fortunate to have speakers with us who have very strong experience in various uses of IDNs, both at the top level and the second level. Pensri, you're going to talk, I think, about the .th. And then we'll have Walter talk about his experience, and Rangga, your experience, and what you're doing with the Bali script at the second level. So Pensri, I believe you have slides, right?
Okay, thank you. While we are waiting for my slide, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Pensri Arunwatanamongkol. I'm the Executive Director of THNIC Foundation, which is the supporting organization for .th and .thai. So .thai is the IDN CCTLD. We submit the request within the fast track process in 2009, and then next slide please. We got delegated in 2010, and we start to operate or make the domain name in Thai script registered for the registrant in 2011. And you can see that currently we have around 33,000 names under .thai. If you compare with .th, we just a bit about 30-something% of the .th. And we provide the registration free to the one that own .th. So .thai is free. Next slide, please. So today I will talk about some use cases of .thai. The first one is the .thai is using to bridge the language gap, because not most of the Thai are familiar or comfortable with English or ASCII character. So we can see that during the pandemic, many government agencies trying to use or campaign the program using IDN domain name. So this is one of the success case of .thai. And next slide, please. So the second one is we use .thai for cultural, as a cultural resonance, as we have Thai culture and heritage that is different from others. And for example, this one is the Thai temple. So they are using Thai name as the domain name for the website of the temple. And another one is we call it Sin Phe Thong Thai, which is the website represent a community organization in sub-district. The name is clearly convey its purpose of Thai script, so there is no need to translate English to English. And next one, please. So the third use case is the digital identity. So currently we have a program for teacher. They can create a website in their own personalized script. So like this, we can see the first one upright is the Kru Oi, which is the name of the teacher. So, and the domain name is expand beside the website. So currently Thai individual and they can have like email address, internationalization or EAI under @kon.thai, and we provide the authentication services. They can use the EAI as the identity to log in to use some of online services like Thai MOOC, which is the an e-learning platform, and we also provide the authentication service to log into like a teenager website that a lot of them trying to post in that. So that is another example. Please, next slide, please. So, but we face some challenges. IDN adoption needs collaboration. So as you can see, if we post the IDN on Facebook, it will show the panic code and any other application also. So we are trying to collaborate and working with the local and global community. For example, we are in Thailand, most of Thai people using Line, which is the social media platform. We talk to the Thai development team so they can now recognize the Thai IDN URL, and we can then click the link from that. And I think we are working with support from UAST and ICANN. We provide we have a local initiative, so we do a lot of things. And this year we successfully have one of .th reseller doing the EAI service provider, which is called Tuk Tuk Mail. So that is our great success. And I think to IDN adoption need multi-stakeholder working together, like government, businesses, and technical experts. So let's work together.
Thank you very much, Pensri, and thank you for highlighting, of course, that CCTLDs is yet another choice, right, for registrants and consumers, and congratulations on the success. So Walter, I think now you're going to tell us about your experience with a .trademark, both at the top and the second level. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. Actually, I will share a bunch of number first before I start to introduce our registry. Based on the statistic report from KNET and VDNS, by the end of Q1 2024, the number of overall ID in GTLD, the registered number is around 400,000. The total number of Chinese IDN is 340,000. Chinese IDN gets a market share of about 85% of the global IDN. .网址 means web address in China. 在线 means online in Chinese. 商城 means shop in Chinese. 公司 means company in Chinese. 手机 means mobile phone in Chinese. And 商标 means trademark in Chinese. Are top 6 Chinese IDN TLD. Those 6 Chinese IDN TLD get around 65% of the global IDN market. All those 6 IDN TLD can be regarded as good examples of IDN. Since I'm personally from the Shangbao registry and familiar with our product and services, I will just take the Shangbao as an example to present the current development of the Chinese IDN market. As the co-founder of the Shangbao registry, personally, I'm very grateful for new GTLD program of ICANN. It gave us the opportunity to do some innovative attempt for launching a dedicated TLD, for trademark holders. Shangbao with 2 Chinese characters is a word, means trademark in China. Compared with TM or R mark, it creates the best awareness for consumers. That's a trademark. So the key value for us to choose this Shangbao with 2 Chinese characters as the TLD name to operate is the trademark identity function, trademark identify function of these 2 Chinese characters. Dao Shangbao or registry only permit the registrant, only permit the registration for registrant holding trademark rights. The Dao Shangbao registry verify the trademark right of the registrant, and the registered names have to match their trademark and brand names. This service focuses on the Chinese-speaking region. It provides an opportunity for brand owners to create an exact match domain name with their brand names composed by Chinese. Defense infringement is always a pain spot for brand owners in domain name space. The trademark creates a mechanism by manual verification and technical blocking. It effectively provides the defense for our registrants. The mission of Dao Shangbao is to create a domain name with trademark identifying function and also build a trust link in domain name space for brand owners and online consumers. Till now, over 27,000 brand owners registered our trademark. A lot of brand owners proactively publish and promote their IDN domain names in advertisement, brochures, product package, and service surroundings. An IDN domain name match their local brand, easily remembered, is dramatically important for their online DTC, means direct to customer marketing. In a summary, new GTLD program and overall IDN development, including the UA improvement, gave us the opportunity to implement a trust domain name solution for brand owners in Chinese-speaking community. The domain name exactly same with the brand name in Chinese bring huge value for the online DTC marketing for the brand owners. The online consumers can conveniently distinguish and access the brand's official website. IDN created a huge value in this scenario. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Walter, and congratulations. And again, underlining and emphasizing the availability of choice for different kinds of brands, companies, communities, and users as well. So I'm going to turn to Rangga next. Thank you for joining us. I think you only found out you're on the panel, maybe 48 hours ago or less.
Yes.
But at the same time, you're going to tell us about something very interesting that's happening here at the second level I believe it's the Balinese script?
Yeah, okay. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rangga from Pandi, or the ID registry. I would love to hide it first, though I would love to request it later. Okay, sorry. Nope. All right, already? Okay. So, talking about using IDNs as a second level, I think the most important question is it really needed? Especially for our market, for Indonesian market, because that's where the future relies on. Otherwise, it's not even worth it to even talk about it. Yeah. So, for your information, we are right now in the process of enabling 4 scripts: Java, Pegon, Sunda, and Bali. Yeah, we start the initial back in 2020. Yeah, but you know what benefit does people get from enabling the IDNs for our market? Why taking all the time and energy consuming effort? I think on the business side, it won't be our first priority, but it's more on our effort to preserve the richness of Indonesian culture. Indonesia, from east to the west, we have 700 plus local language, and we already lost 13 of them. Yeah, and we ain't gonna lose even one more. So. Once again, from our perspective, this is, we see it as our effort to preserve our richness of Indonesian culture that we are very proud of. On a potential user side, actually, for example, Java has more than 100 million population. So Indonesia's strongest, one of the strongest factor is population. Java has more than 100 million in population. Sunda, the other one, is having more than 15 million of population. But I will focus more on Bali. Bali has more than 4 million population. I would love you to show the, okay, so like I said before, Bali has 4 million of population, and they still use it, the language, they still use it in their daily life. They talk, they converse with this language. And also, this is the language. And clearly, when you take your first step in Bali airport, you can clearly see the Bali script and also in the road sign. So basically, Bali is more advanced, yeah. Bali is more, you know, using this language everywhere, basically everywhere, from a young age to, you know, the elder. So that's the one on a potential user side. So we look at it as a niche market, yeah. Bali has more than 4 million. That is a very good number to start with, yeah. By that numbers and fact, I think we already can see the bright future if Bali script is enabled digitally. So out of the 4 script, like I said before, Bali is the most advanced in terms of the progress. Next slide, please. So Bali right now is on progress, already in Algeo document. So we hope to make it in the next round. Yeah. Thank you. That will be my answer.
Thank you very much. We hope so too, because it would be a pity to lose more of our cultural artifacts and our living language and culture. And it's very fitting that you're speaking to us about this very active activity here in Bali that's been so welcoming. You also spoke about a niche market, and I'm not sure if our next speaker is going to say it's a niche or it's more than that, because I want to welcome Harrison, who's been very kind to join us virtually, and thank you for your patience, Harrison. This is the second topic, in case you didn't get it. It was about obviously new opportunities and potential new entrants. And Harrison, in your day job as Business Development Director, I think one of the burning questions you must have, which if you don't, I'm going to ask it. What is the likelihood, what do you think about new applicants for the next round of new GTLDs coming from the crypto community?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much for having me. So the crypto community is very focused on tying in what we call Web3 with Web2. We have what we refer to as DIDs, or decentralized identities, and we'll be able to extend the usability of those through DNSs and launching our own TLDs through different ecosystems. So all of the domain name providers within the crypto space are definitely focused on the next GTLD auction and how we can kind of extend the utility of our current infrastructure and make it more interoperable with what's currently available online. So yeah, I would say amongst all of the top decentralized identity providers, most of them are looking into the auction, how we can kind of bring more value to our ecosystems, to our users, how we can kind of extend the reach of our infrastructure, and how we can mend it and mold it into what's already currently available.
Thank you. And I just asked to make sure that we can all see you, Harrison. So in terms of what we can expect then, any particular thoughts on what we should be looking out for based on what you just said?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think you should definitely expect the top smart contract platforms to all be applying for their GTLDs in the next auction. Some of the biggest would be the Ethereum name service, .eth. They're going to probably be working with the Ethiopian government, who is the managers of the ETH TLD, in order to make that interoperable. Solana, BNB chain, a lot of different layer 1s and layer 2s that have millions of daily active users, probably hundreds of millions of users all across the world. They're all going to want to be extending their capabilities. And I think this also ties in very well to the IDN side, at least on the second layer. I think on the base layer, they're going to be focusing on their branded TLDs, for example, .eth. But as a very globalized industry, crypto is massive in Southeast Asia, in Europe, in the Arab world, everywhere really. And they all have these different internationalized communities with different cultures, with different capabilities, with different interests. So I think, as these TLDs become accessible in the crypto space, we're going to see a lot of IDNs that continue to come to market. In the DID space, the decentralized identity space now, we have our own equivalent of IDNs in different alphabets. Arabic is one of the biggest. Chinese as well as Korean and Japanese are also available and widely used. So I don't think we need to necessarily silo ourselves into just one English-speaking category. I think as a globalized ecosystem that's focused on different sects of the world and what they need to kind of cater to, these IDNs are going to make a lot of sense, both from the TLD side, where users are actually going to be able to have their own DNS, and from the DID side, the decentralized identity side, where they're going to be able to tie in all of those different features to create really an all-encompassing profile of who they are online. That could be, public, like me, harrison.bnb, harrison.eth, or it can be pseudonymous if you're a trader, if you're a collector, if you're a gamer and you have a username, you can choose to use that as your public-facing identity as well, and then have that tied into your DNS, whether that would be going back to your YouTube, a blog, a website, and really create a broader picture of what's possible through not just what's already available, but in the crypto space, also tying in these different financial mechanisms and incentivization models to make it easier for end users and companies to really make this much more highly usable and highly accessible throughout different ecosystems.
Thanks very much, and thanks for also highlighting the possibility of IDNs in this space. And of course, as I said earlier, one of the reasons for introducing new GTLDs is innovation, to see what innovative uses and branding and so forth will come out of it. And obviously, there's been a lot of innovation in the crypto space, in the crypto community. So certainly, I think this is one thing that we can look out for in the next round. And so it's great that you were able to join us. Thank you for being with us. And I think given the time now, I'm first going to ask our panelists if they have any questions, either for you or for one another, before I open it up to the audience, or anything that you forgot to say that you'd like to say at this point. No, I just thought Hiro was going to ask me more questions that I can't answer. Again, thank you all for staying with us. We still have a few minutes, and I know we've covered a lot of ground today, a wide range of topics. Some folks may not thought that we could spend 90 minutes talking about top-level domains and still not finish, but I'd like to invite you in the room, and I don't know if we're able to get any remote participants for this session, but this is your time to make a comment or to ask a question of anyone. And I see a hand in the back.
Hi, yeah, this is Thomas from Intercap. I have a question maybe for Walter about the Chinese IDNs. I know that Chinese IDNs compared to other IDNs are a little bit more popular and probably also the largest choice of different kinds of TLDs. And I noticed that when I looked at the pricing in China that the IDNs are usually much more expensive than the normal TLDs or the regular ASCII TLDs. Do you think it's because it's mostly focused on companies and brands? Or do you think there's another reason that these prices are so high? Maybe another question to give some ideas here is what do you think will be the impact with the next GTLD round and AI companies? Yeah, those are my two questions.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question. Yeah, actually, a lot of people maybe watch that in China the price of the average price of a Chinese IDN is expensive than the ASCII domain. That's a truth. But first, I would mention about, for example, our own product and services, our price is higher. That's true. Our end user price is over $600 US because we provide validated services and a bunch of value added for the brand owner. So that's the first thing. Secondly, the average price of other several TLD I mentioned in the statistics. The average I think around $300-400 US retail price, end user price. Part of the reason of that is I think because of overall awareness of the Chinese IDN is not good enough for the to sell the Chinese IDN on the regular registrar platform. So that means the motivation of customers, if compare with the English domain or the ASCII domain, very few motivation from the customer end to proactively register the domain online. So in China, most of the Chinese registry working with some special registrar or resellers, which have to hire a lot of service people, knock the door, call the customer, and try to educate them why the IDN is very important. You can imagine, maybe $15, $20 US, or $15, $20 ASCII domain. Nobody really call the customer to sell the domain to them. But for IDN in China, have to got the professional, just like the salesperson, to educate the customer. I think that's the key reason of why, the Chinese IDN is expensive compared with the ASCII domain. But it is effective in the market. You see the number of overall Chinese, IDN numbers. And because the market demand is here, you just need the time to educate, to persuade the customer to buy it. So that's all.
Thank you, Walter. That's interesting, and it's also interesting to know that when you put in that effort, that it actually also does pay off despite the price disparity. Before I go to your second question, Thomas, which I assume is an open one for the whole panel, I'm just curious, given the expertise that we have here, is what Thomas pointed, what Walter said, something that is perhaps unique to certain markets like China? Is there a disparity in pricing in the markets you're familiar with as between an ASCII TLD and an IDN? Rangga, any thoughts?
Yeah, like I said before, business is not our prioritize if it means to IDNs. So this is more about our efforts to preserve the local culture, and I think we have a discussion to make it free in the couple of years of if we can make it in the next round. So yeah, probably any panelists have the more of the business side, because we plan not prioritizing the business side. Yeah.
Right, as you say, it's a business decision. Jen, did you want to comment?
Sorry, I guess just briefly, to use .kiz as an example, pricing right now we have is about $18 US, and it could be considered quite high for something that is, you know, an ASCII TLD, but it really depends on your business strategy. Every single top-level domain has a different business plan. There's some that Walter mentions has value-added services. I know for a fact .bank is also higher because they also have verification and value-added services. In our example for .kids, we have definitely very stringent procedures in the back end, looking at the zone file, looking at that, and actually, you know, having a higher cost also deters some base level of DNS abusive registrations, for example. They tend to like to go to the very, very like cheap or very free, like basically free domains. So that is one level of consideration as well when you're looking at pricing. And finally, when you're looking at people buying domains, I mean, of course, price is one consideration, but the use case, what are you using it for? Price is not the only consideration here.
Thank you. And Pensri, I think you had said just now that one of the domains you had mentioned is actually free for the users. So did you want to comment?
Yeah, actually it's the same price. That means if you try to register .thai, then you will get .th. So it's come together. So we would like to open the opportunity for inclusivity, so that Thai and other customer can also going to the same website or using the same email system. So it's come together. Thank you.
Thank you. And so again, it also comes back to the use case, the purpose of the GTLD, who is your targeted user, and what benefits you're trying to push out through that GTLD or CCTLD for that matter. So Thomas, I haven't forgotten your second question, which I think is probably a pretty challenging one to close out this conference, but if I may repeat it, and wave your hand if I get it wrong. I think what I heard was, what are the impacts on the next round of new GTLDs with AI companies? Which I think could be interpreted multiple ways as well. So I just want to invite the panel, any thoughts, comments, either of a personal or professional nature on Thomas's question. Because if not, Harrison, you can just raise your hand because we can see you if you want to comment on this as well. Thomas, would you like to clarify your question? Would you like to at least give a thought? Or did I miss a hand somewhere? Oh, I missed Harrison. Was it right? Sorry, I'm not good at this. Yeah.
Just a comment on the AI side. So from the registration side, we're seeing something similar in crypto as well, how you can kind of mold together these different use cases to create something new. From the TLD side, we probably will see new GTLDs that focus on the AI ecosystem. But as far as registrations go, I don't see a drastic impact, at least in the near future. Of course, there are new companies, new users that will want to get involved, that will want to launch their own DNS. When that comes to actual GTLD registrations, I think it will definitely take some time. I think the industry is still very new when it comes to AI, although there is a lot of interest and a lot of hype. But it will need to mature a little bit until it has really that broad stream impact. So I think we'll see a lot of DNS registrations in the AI space. We'll probably see some GTLD applications, but I don't think it's going to, at least in the short term, have a super big impact compared to any other entity that wants to register their own GTLD or register their own DNS.
Thanks for that. And of course, there are, obviously AI companies and AI-oriented, entities that are using existing CCTLDs and GTLDs, for products, for, market awareness and so forth as well. So it will be interesting to see if that accelerates or changes anything as we move into the next round and beyond. So Thomas, you're smiling. I assume that you're okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'd like to close out by inviting all the panelists, like a lightning round. If you had one thing that you wanted to say about the next round of GTLDs, whether that is advice for potential applicants or just generally commenting on where you think the next round will go, now's your time as well. And so perhaps shall I start over there with Hiro?
Well, less competitor, the better for us, for sure. But again, if you are going to apply, do your homework. It's whether it's geographic or whatever TLD it is. We did think that we would do a lot better than we actually are doing right now. And the fact of the matter is there is going to be a lot of competition. Not everyone is going to buy your TLD. It doesn't matter how many letters, words there are in existing domains. It is going to be a tough business, and you are going to have to work for it. It is going to cost a lot of money. There's going to be a lot of marketing dollars that you're going to have to pay. Registrars outside, whatever it is. So be prepared, like someone was saying earlier. Once you get the TLD, that's just the start line. From there on, it's a pretty long journey. So keep that in mind. But when you do the right things, and when you have great partners around you, around the world, that will help sell your TLDs, you will see great results. And so be prepared, and make sure you commit to being there for a long term.
Thank you. Pensri, the perspective from the CCTLD end?
Actually, I think IDN is promising. So the next round, I hope to see a lot of IDN, and you can join us working on UA, universal acceptance. So that's my
Thank you
point.
for that call to action. That would be great if we could continue to make the progress that we have with the community on universal acceptance. Walter, thoughts from you?
Just now, I prepared several cases about the second level application for the IDN. I will just take a little bit time to share about that. Actually, several big multinational brands register 到商标 like Shiseido, Starbucks, Tissot, and Rolex. They all register those Chinese brand. Actually, in China, a lot of consumers cannot really remember the complicated brand name. Like I do not have a very exact statistics, but I guess over 90% of the China consumer cannot really spell Shiseido very well. That means when Shiseido use Shiseido.com.cn as their Chinese, the website in China, official website in China. But most of the Chinese internet user cannot remember Shiseido. Even myself, sometimes I always, make typo for Shiseido. So that is the key value of the IDN product. It provides opportunity for the brand owners to use their localized brand name and match their domain name. That only provides the convenience for the brand owner, but also protect the internet user and consumers. Because most of the consuming industry, they regard official website very, very important. I show these 4 examples because all of that 4 examples, those 4 websites, they provide the online trading function. That means you can buy things online. So that is actually the value of online DTC. A lot of executives of a multinational they mention about the official website should be the flag store globally. So that is why the IDN name provides the entrance, use their local brand name for the local people to visit their official website. It is very, very important and critical. But the awareness is still very important. I saw those 4 multinational brands, they resolve the domain names and redirect to their website, but I never see they publish the domain name on their advertisement or package label because the overall awareness of the IDN is not enough. Although their legal team, their IT team support the IDN, but their market guy maybe never think or heard about the IDN. So it still takes a long way. I think it needs the industry, needs the UA progress, need a long way to really generate a good environment for all IDN users. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think that illustrates what Hiro is saying, is that, that's only the start of the journey and the commitment to the use of the TLD, or the second level registration in this case. Sophia, speaking of brands, your thoughts?
So I just want to make an overall observation or my expectation for the next round. And I think the biggest number will be brands. And second will be the GTLDs. And the third will be the geo. So if I rank it, the numbers that I expected, maybe we can, have a conversation, in 5 years to see if I'm right. And I regarding with brands, if any of the, the community that you want to educate in the brands, and or maybe yourself as a brand, just make sure that within the organization, you need to talk to the person who's in charge of the domains, and also in charge of using the domains. So usually in a company, the departments that is charge of actually applying for TLDs and making sure the TLDs is using the organization, sometimes it's not the same department. It's sometimes it is, but sometimes it's legal and IT, maybe how to say in China, it's administrative or strategy department that was involved. So if you want to talk to a brand, just make sure you find the right person to talk to, but also make sure you need to figure out the whole decision-making chain within the organization, because eventually they have to build a project team within the organization to support the applications, also support the usage after they got the TLDs. So it's really overall kind of education process and value delivering process. You need to work with the brands company as a whole. And that is not that easy, to be honest, right? It's, so that's one tips. And for the GTLDs, because a lot of ASCII names already taken, and also and then if you want to apply a very good, hot, popular name, it's a lot of competition. Hiro knows about that. With the .shop. So our expectation is, actually there's a lot of IDNs those was not taken. Like in first round, I think Chinese IDNs still have a lot of good names, and I'm expecting people will actually, get more IDN names, create a business, and also with other languages as well. So that is a very interesting point when I see, and I know that even I talked to some community members that actually from America, Canada, they even say, oh, I want to apply for IDN, Chinese IDN names, because there's a lot of things available. So just think creatively, find a niche, find less competitive ones, but also be sure you have a business model, like Hiro says. You know what you're doing. You create a business model, you think about it thoroughly to see whether it's going to work in the market. So to make sure that your success is coming out afterwards, after a real planned, like business plan. And the third one is a geo. And I combine with the geo with also cultural heritage. What I see in China is very interesting that Chinese have 5,000 years of history. We have a lot of cultural heritage, and we also has a lot of places that has all religion. So maybe that's coming out of the hands, but we might encourage some of the potential applicants to use ASP, applicant support program, to create, some kind of interesting nonprofit projects to preserve the cultural heritage part. There's also something will be very interesting to explore, not just besides the city ones. Yeah.
Thank you, and that ties into what Rangga was saying earlier too. So we have a date, 2026 APAC DNS Forum. We're coming back to see if Sophia's predictions are correct. Rangga, your thoughts?
Okay, so we are part of the applicants, and we'll wait for this for a long time. So I think I have a lot of valuable advice and information coming from other panelists. So I just hope to emphasize our points of view, we do this not on just a business side, but to preserve the richness of our local culture. So hope to make it in the next round. That's all. Okay.
We all hope the same. Thank you. Jennifer.
Thanks, Mary. I'll keep it short and sweet. I'll just share one, I guess, personal excitement that for the next round, I'm hoping to see also more IDNs, internationalized domain names. Looking forward to having the single character Chinese domain names. That would be really good. And then the second thing is a reminder for people who are interested in the applicant support program. There is a frequently asked questions page. Please take a look at it. There will be a list, or I think there is already a list of pro bono service providers that can give you advice pro bono for free on how to write the application. A lot of the processes, some of the ICANN language can be quite complex and convoluted. Look at it early, ask your questions. There's always ICANN staff who's happy to answer. There's others, like everybody on the panel and everybody in the room as well, that would be very happy to answer your questions. So ask your questions, ask away.
Yeah, that's a good point. There is a lot of information. Hopefully some of it is in clear, accessible language. And I mentioned the applicant support handbook that's also there. So I'm going to enlist everyone's help to spread awareness that this program's coming at the end of this year. And hopefully we will see IDNs, we will see applications from this part of the world and others. And so Harrison, last but definitely not least, having brought to us the possibility that we will see a new kind of applicant in the next round, what are your final thoughts for our audience today?
Yeah, sure. Infrastructure is playing a very crucial role in the blockchain and crypto space, especially identity infrastructure, whether it's B2C, B2B, or even customer to customer. Extending that usability to what we consider the traditional internet, what's more established, is going to open a lot of new use cases, both for end users, for retail users, as well as institutional users. So we're going to see a lot of applications from the crypto space as the crypto space matures, as we see more consumer applications that are widely adopted. Having human readable identities, whether it's in English or other languages, is going to be crucial to usability and interaction. So we're still about 2 years out from the GTLD application process. Ourselves at Space ID, as well as many other infrastructure providers, have already been looking into this for a while. So I would say expect the crypto space to continue to become more involved in the traditional web and kind of bridge that gap between what's already available and what we're trying to innovate on. So yeah, feel free to check us out. Decentralized identities are very widely used already. And when we can extend that to TLDs, it's going to bring a lot more value to everyone involved.
Thank you for that, and thank you, everyone. That brings us full circle to the reason why ICANN is introducing new GTLDs in the first place, which is innovation, competition, and consumer choice. So please join me in giving a big round of applause to all our very distinguished speakers and panelists. Thank you all for staying with us, and I think on that note, I'm handing you back to our MC, who will give us instructions on where to go next.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, please give applause to our panelists and also distinguished moderator. And same as the previous session, we will continue with the photo session with all panelists and also moderator. Harrison, thank you for joining us virtually. Please remain on your screen as we will continue with the photo session with you as well, with the other panelists. You may please standing. All right, please take a look on the camera. Allow me to do the count. 1, 2, 3. All right, Ching's it okay enough? All right, thank you. Panelists, moderator, you may return to your seat. Thank you so much for the enlightening session. On the final session of the 2 days of forum, thank you so much for a dynamic, fruitful discussion. Well, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, time flies so fast. But before we conclude our event, this evening, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our valuable moderators and speakers for their insightful sharing and great session of discussions. And also like to thank all of you, all the participants. Thank you so much for staying with us. Thank you for your active engagement throughout the forum. Please give applause to each and every one of you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for amazing today's forum. And last but not least, I would like to thank our beloved sponsors. Thank you so much again for their tremendous support to our special event. Thank you to our gold sponsors, TW Nixie, and also our refreshment sponsor, CSC, our community sponsors, IDNIC, IT.com, HKIRC, APTLD, Space.id, CNIC, DNet, Media Cloud. And also thank you to our sponsor for internet and connectivity bandwidth, BizNet Geo. Give applause to our amazing sponsors. And once again, thank you so much everyone for making this event success. And last but not least, I have an important information to each and every one of you. As we now come to the end of our session this evening, we would like to invite all of you to come to the closing social at the Westin Hotel's Temple Garden straight after this. And I'm sure that we will having so much fun together. We will have a special performance and also announcement about the Lucky Wheel winners. So make sure that you keep your Lucky Wheel number on your badge. Once again, thank you so much everyone for our moment of togetherness of today's forum. I'm Putri Cahaya signing out. Enjoy the rest of your stay in Bali and have a wonderful day. Thank you everyone.